Do you want to get your Dungeon Master something special for the holidays? Well, you've come to the right place. This FNGM here with my top 10 gifts for your Dungeon Master in the 2023 holiday season. Now, before we get started here, I want to acknowledge that things are pretty tight this year. I've got 3 kids. Trust me, I understand. So when I crafted this list, I wanted to make sure that I chose things that I personally can vouch for, but also that can fit a wide array of budgets. So that way, you, no matter where you're at monetarily, can get your Dungeon Master something that they will appreciate. Now, I can't guarantee satisfaction with this list, but I can say that every single item on this list is something that I personally, as a Dungeon Master, would be happy to have received from one of my players. Let's go ahead and get started. First up, for the under $20 range, we have the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. I know, this has been out for quite a while, and this is nothing new to a lot of people, but if your Dungeon Master is someone who likes to prioritize flexibility and also prioritize their personal time and not spend all of it prepping, the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master by The Sly Flourish is a fantastic gift. It is a book that I use before every single session I run. I cannot express how much the ideas in this book have completely changed how I approach dungeon mastering for the better. You can get this book for $20 or less from DriveThruRPG. Next up, let's talk about getting a brand new game. I have the Zweihander starter set by Daniel D. Fox and James Introcaso here. This starter set is fantastic. It is packed to the brim with everything someone needs to run a new game, including an adventure, including the books needed to design characters, some pre-made characters, cards to represent injuries and afflictions. It is fantastic. It also comes with some dice, so if you're thinking about getting your Dungeon Master dice, it's in the book. This thing barely gets above $20 right now because at this point, at least on Amazon when I saw it about 20 minutes ago, it's only like $22. It is awesome. I have played through this myself with Daniel D. Fox, and I have to say I love the adventure in here, and I had a really good time. So if you're looking to try out a new game, or if your Dungeon Master is looking to try out a new game, but maybe they're on the fence, get them a starter set. That's going to be a great way to let them know, hey, we're ready to try something new. Now, the third item on my list is brand new to the market, and if your Dungeon Master is anything like me, they're going to love it. So You Want to Be a Game Master by Justin Alexander. Now, Justin Alexander has run a blog for years giving Dungeon Masters advanced advice. You know, there's a lot of advice people who give advice out there for, basic dungeon mastering skills. I'm one of them. But Justin Alexander makes me take my game mastering to the next level. If you saw my video about clean procedures, I mentioned his blog, and this is the guy. He's written a book now, and it's out there at I know I got mine at Barnes & Noble, and it's only about $25. I think it is packed full of really useful information. But don't just take my word for it. Monty Cook says it's not just the same old stuff you've heard time and again. Inside, you'll find amazing ideas and actionable advice that any game master will find useful. Matt Colville says, I wish I had Justin's book when I was 15. It would have made me a better DM like it will make you a better DM. Well, I can't agree more. $25, fantastic option. Now, maybe your Dungeon Master is into some good, wholesome fun and also still looking for a new game. Well, they should check out Avatar Legends, the starter set. You can find this bad boy for only $29.99. I think it is a fantastic game. It's powered by the Apocalypse, which is a phenomenal system with open system where anybody can go in and make a game. And Magpie Games came in and made a tabletop role-playing game off of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is so much fun. You get to choose what type of bender you're going to be, and you get to go through that wonderful world provided to us so many years ago. I say so many years ago. It's not that old, right? Right? No, but this is really a fun game. I played it with my children, and we had a freaking blast. There's also full versions of the TTRPG out there, but again, I think starter sets are a great way to dip your toes in without having to fully commit if you're not ready to. It comes with a way to make your characters. It comes with a way to play by having the adventure. It gives you a lot of stuff. What do we got? A 32-page booklet. We've also got engraved dice, and we've got action cards. There's a lot of stuff that this comes with. It is not skimping. So, yeah, check it out. For my fifth idea, I'm going to shill a tiny bit, so please excuse me. But I think any Dungeon Master who's playing in a home game could use a lot more terrain. And I just happen to know a guy, myself, who creates terrain made for tabletop RPGs. Now, I have my own Etsy store, which I have linked below, and this right here is my little Baba Yaga hut. I love this thing because it also comes off, and now it's just a little house. Anyway, there are a lot of great terrain makers out there that you can find. You know, of course, Dwarven Forge is great, but I find them a little bit pricey. But you know, if you have that kind of money, hey, go for it. And but there's a lot of other great terrain makers out there. WizKids does terrain that you can purchase in your friendly local game store, and then Etsy is just filled with people like me who are 3D printing terrain or crafting terrain from raw materials to bring to your game. And as a dungeon master, if any of my players showed up with pieces of terrain for me to use, I would be all over it. For instance, I printed this off just for fun. See if I could. And immediately I started trying to design little adventures or side quests in which I could use it because it's so cool to have 3D elements on the table. So you can find products like this usually ranging somewhere between $20 and up. I'm kind of sticking it right now in the $25 to $30 range because really it just really depends on how much you want to get. So it's 3D terrain, mwah. But of course, as I said, I'm kind of shilling just a little bit. Now, maybe your Dungeon Master is ready for a whole brand new game and your budget's sitting around $40. Well, then Candela Obscura may be exactly what you need. Candela Obscura is a new game created by Darrington Press using the Illuminated World system that they have designed. And I think this game looks awesome. I think the tone is great. I think the concept is great. It's basically like Men in Black, but set in like the 1920s. And instead of dealing with aliens, you're dealing with like monsters and fey creatures, right? The world beyond the fantasy world beyond ours. It reminds me a lot, in a way, of what is that show? Carnival Row, with Orlando Bloom in it, and which is a show I love. So of course it's like the first thing that comes to mind when I am reading through this. I am really looking forward to playing this game. I haven't had a chance to play it myself, but I've watched a few actual plays, including Critical Roles, of going through this, and it just looks like a blast. Plus, it's kind of a breath of fresh air from my usual Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, because this isn't really that much about combat. It is really focused on investigation, on exploration, and on social storytelling. And one of my favorite rules that this has in it is the ability to level up your group rather than just the individual character, and I think that really supports like party unity. I think that this is a great game to try, and it's not too expensive if you're looking for something beyond the standard Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, and such. So give it a shot. Now, my next one is for you diehard 5th edition fans. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition since it launched, and I have played so many games in it. And one thing that I love as a dungeon master is better tools to be able to create better games. And one of the best ways to create better games is to create better monsters, and that's where the Lazy DM's Forge of Foes comes in. This $40 book is written by Teos Abadia, Scott Fitzgerald Gray, and Michael Shea, the Sly Flourish, who did the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. So this book is phenomenal. It is not a monster manual. It is a flat-out toolkit to make better, more interesting, more customized monsters, how to run better combats, how to inject more dynamic elements into your game. I love this book, and I am already using it on my monsters in my regular game. I cannot say enough things about this book that I honestly wanted to do a whole darn review, but at this point I'm just going to toss it into this holiday guide and hope that all of you know that you can grab this right now, $39.99. So well worth the money, let me say. Now, if you have a little more spending cash and your dungeon master is really into designing their own adventures, and maybe monsters aren't what they need a book for, but rather they just need ideas for brand new adventures, then you cannot get any better than the Tome of Adventure Design. This is the revised edition, which is like twice as thick as the original. This is by Matt Finch. It is through Mythmere Games. This book is filled with random generation tables for everything. It is so good. I've been using the first version of this book for years to come up with new ideas. Even if I'm not using it directly to populate my world or to create new encounters or to figure out systems of government or what the heck the tavern has for sale, to eat and drink. I just use this to generate new ideas that would not normally pop into my head. This toolkit, I mean, it's a book, but it's a toolkit, is absolutely essential in every dungeon master's arsenal. It doesn't matter what game you're playing, it's system neutral. This book is phenomenal. Finch has done a fantastic job here, and I cannot recommend this highly enough. Now, the next product hits the $70 range, and while that may seem pricey, I gotta say, from my perspective, it's absolutely worth it. I'm talking about Flea Mortals from MCDM. MCDM has already designed, at this point, 3 books and a number of online publications for your 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons games, and in my opinion, each product has gotten better than the last. They are really nailing this, and Flea Mortals is the most current offering they have in terms of published books. It is probably the best monster manual I have ever seen. Flea Mortals takes a lot of the monsters that we would already find in the Dungeon Master's Guide and gives them not only a modern spin to more modern 5th edition design, but also just really cool ways to play them. They introduce the idea of minions. If any of you played 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, there's one hit point there's one hit point little minions that you put in to the combats to really make them feel more cinematic. MCDM has brought them back with great rules for 5th edition. They also have boss monsters, which differ from legendary monsters in that they are designed to, they last a little longer. They have multiple limit break type abilities where every round at least for 3 rounds, you get these big crazy abilities to make the battles more interesting. And a lot of these villains summon more minions, and it's just so good. Also, the companions mechanic, which is all about the idea of having a monster or NPC from this book join your party. It gives rules for that and little stat blocks to use, so that way you're not accidentally unbalancing your game. I think Flea Mortals is amazing, and if I wish I would have gotten the special edition cover. This one is great. I think it's fantastic, but I really wish I would have gotten that special edition cover because I love having this thing on my shelf, and I guarantee that if your Dungeon Master is running 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, they would love it too. The money is no object option. This is less of one specific thing, but rather a company to look at to get your Dungeon Master the ultimate gift. I am talking about Beadle Grimm. So I've got right here the Shadows of the Dragon Queen Adventure here. And this box set, I did a whole unboxing about a year ago on Twitter, and these Beadle Grimm boxes are absolutely worth the money if you can spend it. It's insane. They come with the entire adventure, but broken down into different booklets to make it way easier to run. They come with a ridiculous amount of handouts, which are absolutely useful at the table. It even comes with extra adventures to toss that have been tossed in, and this one in particular came with these holy symbols for Tiamat and for Paladine, and I freaking love it. It's when it comes to luxury gaming products, I think Beadle Grimm has nailed that market. There's a certain sense of pride you get when you get to display a Beadle Grimm set on your shelf. And I know that it's not just about, the hey, look how much money I spent or someone spent on me, but it's also about just the sheer utility of it. Is it worth, $300 to $400? And I can tell you from personal experience, 100%. If I could, I'd buy every single dang one. But again, 3 kids, and also I can't run that many games at once, so I've got a little bit of time. Anyway, if money's no object, the Beadle Grimm sets are absolutely where you should be looking at for the Dungeon Master in your life. My final recommendation is probably the most valuable thing you can get your Dungeon Master this holiday season, and it's pretty cheap though. It's gratitude. When we run games for our players, this is something we often do because we love the art of dungeon mastering. I know I do. It's one of my favorite things I get to do. Plus, I get a chance to spend time with my friends and play cool games. But sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. And when a player at the very end of the night, and this doesn't happen all the time, but when a player at the end of the session or the night says, "Hey, thanks for running the game," that right there is everything. So if you want a good gift to give your dungeon master and you don't have a lot of money to spend, or heck, even if you have millions of dollars to spend, I'd still recommend getting them this one. Give them your gratitude. Let them know that you appreciate what they do, because it's a hard job being a dungeon master, and not everybody takes it on. But if your dungeon master is providing you a entertaining game, then yeah, toss them some gratitude. You might also consider maybe bringing their favorite snack to the next game, or maybe their favorite drink, but that's not really necessary. We as Dungeon Masters don't need you to spend your money on us. But a thank you will go a long way to letting us know that, hey, you notice the work we put into this. Okay, that's it. That is what I have for this year's top 10 gifts that I would recommend you get your Dungeon Master. There are so many other things I wanted to talk about, but I do not have 3 hours to go on about this. Plus, you've got a whole life to live. There are so many great products, so many great companies out there making great games and making great products for your games. Please do not see this as an exhaustive list. It's just 10 things I wanted to mention. But, no matter what, though, when it boils down to it, if you decide to get your Dungeon Master any sort of gift, I know that they're going to appreciate it immensely, because being noticed is really, being noticed, being thought of is really all that actually counts. Whatever you're celebrating this year, I hope it's a good one, and I hope you're able to find that perfect something for the Dungeon Master in your life.